Hey everyone, welcome back to Manny's Irish Pub for the sports betting show. I'm starting the show off here with Jesse Scholl. We're expecting a few other guys to be joining us, some of the regular co-hosts that, I guess the way I describe it, Jesse, one is highly intelligent, and the other one's intelligent and just damn funny. And you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Mr. Finn is not attending, but you never know. You never know in this thing. Just got a message here from Rob Vino. Speak of it. Oh, he says he can't get in. Oh, I sent him the wrong thing. My God. Here we go.
Looks like we got some golf numbers there scrolling down the middle.
Yeah, I wanted to get them there for Max on record in case he's lurking. And I'm not calling him a name. I'm calling him a lurk. But he loves the golf and humbly said the golf DraftKings has done pretty well. I tend to wait until the calendar turns to really start getting back into it. And then, of course, the majors is what I really feast on. But I had a good one 2 weeks ago in the NFL. I came in 18th. And as you know, Jesse, I've said this time and time again. It was it was the U.S. Open. It was Sunday, 1:00 Eastern. I put the golf on the TV, and then I noticed that the 6 guys on the first page of the leaderboard are 6 in one of my lineups. So I turned it off and refused to watch it because I thought I would jinx it. I don't really believe that. I probably do if I actually turn off the TV and refuse to watch it and I don't look at my DraftKings. I did that during the Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. Because I'm a big time sports fan. I'm not a diehard team fan. But I'm kind of a fan of that Belichick plug and play type of stuff. And at halftime, I was getting condolences and better luck next time, and from friends that actually just despise the Patriots. And we had friends over too, and they were saying, well, maybe we should just go home. And I said, guys, man, it's freaking entertainment, right? I'm not going to throw my beer at the TV and wreck it. But as the only person that actually made contact with me is our oldest son. And he actually said, Dad, if there's anybody that can do it, this is the guy. And I said, it's nice of you to say, it makes me feel a little bit better. But, I think it's over. But then you could see what was happening. And he actually noted, and I won't forget this part here, that the Falcons defense was on the field a ton in that first half. Because they scored so fast, so rapidly, and it showed. And that once that defense wore down, it was you knew what was going to happen even when it went to overtime. They won the coin flip, and you knew it was done.
You certainly knew what was going to happen in overtime, but without the coaching errors, the grievous coaching errors, there's no way that the Falcons should have blew that lead.
Yep,
that was I take the wins and losses as they come. I'm pretty good at usually keeping an even keel, but I really had trouble sleeping for a couple days after that one. That was a very bitter pill to swallow for Falcons bettors.
Yeah, it was. And it's one of the reasons I'm so lucky in the Super Bowl record I have is 18-5 over the last 23 years. And believe me, that was lucky. The Patriots win with the interception against Seattle in the last play of the game. Instead of running Marshawn Lynch, that was lucky. Sometimes you have a record that looks real impressive, but if you're honest about it, you got a hell of a lot more breaks than you did bad breaks. So Rob Vino, looks like he's getting ready to he's being a trial attorney or something. He's getting all his papers in order and
looks like he's
shuffling around.
Actually shaven. He's got a bit of a baby face today.
What do you think this is? Pro TV?
Let's see here. Am I crooked? There we go. A little straighter. Okay. What is up, gentlemen? Sorry
Well,
about
Tony
that.
Finn would have had a field day with that, Rob. When you said, "Boy, am I crooked?" He would have. He
Tony
would have gone
Finn,
down the wrong highway with that one.
yesterday he was on quite the tear. He's out somewhere in Las Vegas with a
Outside?
gun, hunting down a hawk. He's going to shoot a hawk who apparently tried to eat his little dog. His other dog is dying of cancer. So he was sad at first. Then he got angry because he took his little dog for a walk, and he said a hawk swooped down and tried to eat his little dog. So he went and got a gun and went after that dog, or that hawk. And what else was he saying he was going to do?
Holy moly.
Now, but he was on quite the tear yesterday, Tony. Things happen, I guess. And his cat got eaten by a coyote. His neighbor came to his house and told him that a coyote ate his cat 10 days ago. He's been looking for his cat for 10 days. So I don't know what goes on. He lives in Marlin Perkins Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom, or what goes on over there.
Hey, Tiger
probably why he's
coming
not
out
here.
on Netflix.
Yeah, it's probably
It does
why he's
sound
not here today.
Yeah, I guess that explains why he's not on the show.
We could start calling him Tony Exotic.
Yeah, Tony Exotic. That's right. Lion tamer, tiger tamer.
Tony Exotic, all in moderation.
That'll give him an idea for next year's Halloween costume.
Yeah, the prison orange that Joe Exotic wears right now.
Well, it's been a while since we've done the show, so I'm glad we're doing one today. Certainly, it looks like we'll do one tomorrow and Friday. So we're finding a pocket of time to get it back on the rails, and a lot of it's been my schedule, and everybody else's just hasn't collided, and that happens in this business. Shows can take a back seat to many things that generate coin. Getting the picks out, getting emails back to clients, and the shows that you guys do is you do a lot of shows every single day as guests. I host, and then I did 2 today, the NFL one, and Ronald Cabang, who's better known as @UCapper on Twitter, and he's SportsMemo's reigning NBA expert. He had the best units won record last year, over 80 units won. But then again, I always look at Rob Vino, and he's done something that is truly amazing. 2 consecutive seasons of NBA top dog at WagerTalk. I mean, we're talking WagerTalk, and that's pretty damn good.
Sometimes you get a little lucky, John. What are you going to do?
Yeah. My NBA's kind of cooking now. Finally, had a couple sweep nights. However, I did have the Brooklyn Nets last night, and that was not a good handicap. It looked okay for the first half, but as we used to say, Michael is Michael, Curry is Curry, Brady is Brady, and Curry was just. I mean, I don't know how you could get the ball to go through the center of the cylinder any more in the center than what he's shooting right now. It doesn't even look like it hits the net. 35-foot shots, and it's like free throws.
It is crazy. I mean, I turned 60 last month, and I've seen a lot of basketball. And I tell my kids, this is the greatest shooter I've ever seen, Steph Curry. And I mean, I can remember, guys that played before the three-point arc. Cherry West, guys that could shoot the basketball. But this guy's out of this world. He's just out of this world. For the last 5 or 6 years, he's out of this world, not just last night. Kevin Durant was not Kevin Durant in the second half. That didn't help Brooklyn's cause any. And then Steve Nash pretty much waved the white flag mid-fourth quarter and said, we're done. So that was I don't know. I'm not a firm believer in early season statements. Like when you see national media talk about that was a statement game. Golden State put Brooklyn in their place. And I'm just not so sure that that's what that was all about. I mean, when come April, which is how far down the line? 6 months down the line, when the playoffs come, Brooklyn, who knows if they have Kyrie Irving or not by that time. Could be a totally different situation. But Golden State does look like a fantastic team at this point in time. And the thought of Klay Thompson joining that lineup is probably pretty scary for a lot of Western Conference teams because they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Oh, I agree. And I was wondering, I'm glad you're on the show because I was wondering what you thought about Kyrie Irving coming back, because one of the shows we did last year, I did some database queries among the big three, with Harden, Durant, and Kyrie, and the results were the team did better without Kyrie in the lineup, and the common denominator was that when you had Durant in the lineup, the records were so much better in all the other combinations. It didn't matter if it was Harden and Durant, Kyrie and Durant. As long as he was in, they won at a much higher percentage, especially against the spread. So with all this stuff that's going on with Kyrie and the potential disruption of the chemistry that they seem to be building, with the exception of last night, what do you think? I mean, when he comes, do you think he will come back? And if he does, what impact is he going to have? Is it going to be?
It's a great question, right, John? Because who knows if New York is going to ease the laws on the vaccination? That's probably first and foremost. This guy doesn't look like he's going to get vaccinated anytime soon. His personal choice, but New York's doesn't look like they're changing their laws either anytime soon. So that automatically keeps him from being on Brooklyn, period. They can probably only go so far when it comes to playoffs with Durant and Harden. They can't win the East, I wouldn't think. You could probably line up 3 teams right now in a 7-game series that are better than they are. Maybe, and a fourth, if I count Atlanta, maybe Atlanta could give them a real go. Certainly Atlanta gave teams a go last year, but I would think a fully healthy 76ers club, there's a team that's better without their troublemaker. They've proven when they're healthy, they're far better than, having Ben run around out there. But they've been so decimated. Last night, 7 guys in the lineup, they get blown out. Philly's probably better. I would think that Milwaukee healthy, and they have not been healthy early on either. They'll get Chris Middleton back tonight. They're certainly better than Brooklyn without Kyrie. I think the Miami Heat at this point in time have shown to be one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the NBA early on. Maybe they're better than Brooklyn without Kyrie. So they can get by regular season, but Kevin Durant and James Harden aren't playing for the regular season. They're playing to win a championship. And I don't know that they get there, John, without Kyrie Irving. I would think that they're the 4th or 5th choice just coming out of the East without Kyrie.
That's interesting.
I don't think there's any chance that he's going to play for
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, I think there's no chance he's playing for the Nets. I think that the best case scenario for the Nets would be to trade him if that's even possible.
And then you have to trade him to a state that doesn't have a vaccine mandate, because otherwise he's no use to that team either. So that limits it somewhat. Who knows, right? This guy, a lot of maybe dissension gets caused here, John. I'm not sure. Because the way I was reading it this morning, and I didn't remember exactly how this team was formed, but I was reading an article this morning that basically when these guys came together, it was at Kyrie Irving's request that Kevin Durant come to play with him in Brooklyn. And now he's the guy that's not playing basketball, and Kevin Durant's stuck there. I shouldn't say stuck, but maybe he would have gone somewhere else other than Brooklyn. If who could have predicted this, obviously, but it's the situation they're in now, for better or worse. And I don't know.
It's hard to feel sorry for Kevin Durant when he left the Warriors. I mean, he was in the perfect spot, and he chose to leave that so he could defeat his own ego, in my opinion. So,
right.
It's hard to feel sorry for him. It's hard not to laugh and kind of smile at the fact that he went to Brooklyn so that he could be the man, and he made his own bed. He can sleep in it.
Right. That's exactly it too. I mean, that's the reason he went. I don't think he enjoyed, not being the top dog on Steph Curry's team. Some guys are, it is crazy how egos can get in the way, but they're the elite of the elite, and they all feel like they should be the guy. I mean, all you have
Meanwhile,
to do is
was he winning playoff MVPs and scoring
yeah,
titles? And I mean, he really was the top dog. Even it's not like he was living in Curry's shadow. It's almost like he just didn't want to share any of the spotlight.
right. And it's very much like what LeBron James has done throughout his career. He's gonna go where and form what and he's in a bind now, right? Because Golden State's far superior to the Lakers at this point in time. Where are the Lakers going to go as opposed to Golden State? They've got a long road ahead of them. They may not he may not have, constructed a team good enough. Because Russell Westbrook at this point in time seems like a guy that doesn't fit into that puzzle. So, but the NBA season is so long, guys. I mean, we're going to be talking NBA finals third week of June next year. That's how long this thing takes. So I could see some things changing, some moves being made. We'll see where Simmons ends up, because it doesn't look like Simmons will ever play again for Philadelphia. It would be nice if Philly could add anything to that roster right now, because I'll tell you what, this is only my opinion, but the least flawed basketball player in the entire NBA is Joel Embiid. He's got the least flaws of anybody. That guy is, and if I'm going to start a franchise today, he's the Steph Curry or no Steph Curry. I'm taking Joel Embiid. You got to pray he stays healthy. This is not a physical injury. It's obviously coronavirus. But the more you watch of him, John, wow.
Yeah.
And Jesse, that guy could carry a team to an NBA finals, and then could he win it or not? I'm not sure, but I don't see them missing a beat. When that lineup was whole 5 or 6 games ago, they were destroying people.
Yes, they were. They're still number 2 in effective field goal percentage, and it's largely because of him. They play at a slower pace, as you know. They're 28th out of the 30 teams in field goals attempted, but they're 6th in scoring. That might have changed after last night's debacle. But last night there was I did like a quick hitting 2.5 minute NBA show, and Ronald Kabang over at SportsMemo and I do the regular show together. And the Sixers in that Pacers loss shot 52% from threes, had 18 offensive rebounds, and made 25 free throws. Since 1995, that has occurred 39 times. It was 33 and 5 straight up. The Sixers made it 6. I thought that was amazing. So, of course, you know me. What happens next? Well, when a team, all those teams, when they met those numbers or exceeded them, the under hit at close to 80%. And what was the money on last night? I was on the under. In large part because of that little bit of research, too. So you get these, outliers where, for example, Orlando is playing the Knicks tonight. They've allowed 50% opponent shooting in 3 consecutive games. That is hugely in favor of the Knicks. It's just these little things that sometimes don't look like they mean much. But Orlando is just not a good team on either side of the ball. And the Knicks, I don't believe that the Knicks actually played quality defense in the last game against the Pacers. But it looked like they did. But watching it on the rerun, which takes like 15 minutes, it looked more like the Pacers also had a bad shooting night, where just a lot of bricks. So, tonight I actually like the over in the Knicks game. And another reason why I discovered was the number 1 team in scoring offense for the fourth quarter is the Orlando Magic. So why would you think that is? I think it's because they play so many garbage time games. But interesting enough, the Knicks are the second worst defensive fourth quarter team, allowing about the same number as Orlando scores, which is about 28.5 points in the fourth quarter. So I'm thinking, take the over pre-flop. Sometimes the Knicks games in the second quarter just come to just an absolute halt. I mean, they can do. I mean, it's like watching paint dry. And there's the opportunity then, knowing that you have that fourth quarter in the pocket, and as long as the Knicks have a double-digit lead, or at least 10-point lead, maybe 20, then I think you got a pretty good bet for that fourth quarter. To play the in-game total, not the fourth quarter total. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I could tell you right off the bat why the Knicks' defense is worse. I mean, they've replaced that backcourt, and Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier can't play defense. So, I mean, that's reason number one. They're worse defensively at the guard position. They're better offensively. They're a real good first-half covering team because they come off the bench with guys that can score. I mean, those three guards that come off the bench, Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, and Alec Burks, any one of those guys can go for 20 on a given night. So NBA benches just don't have that kind of firepower. Second quarter games tend to go a little bit dry because your first unit comes out, sit about 5.5 minutes, come back in, and by that time a lot of the quarter's gone. But the Knicks can continue to score. So they traded offense for defense. Now they've got a defensive-minded head coach in Tom Thibodeau. Can he work things out? Possibly, but Kemba Walker's lost a step on defense. There's no doubt about it. And Evan Fournier was never, nobody ever put a crown on him because of his defense. They're both offensive-minded guys. So, particularly in games, guys, when they don't have, and there's been a few, Mitchell Robinson and Nerlens Noel at the same time, and there's no rim protection on that team. There's been a couple of those. I mean, these game results are so much a factor of the matchups and the absences that you really have to stay on top of that stuff before we take these ATS numbers just blindly and apply them. So we'll see. I mean, the Knicks, like I say, Thibodeau's a guy that can work things out. We'll see. They were much better defensively than they are this year. Sure, he's not happy. There's other teams like the Boston Celtics that on a dime about a week and a half ago started holding teams under 100 points consistently. God only knows how. Jaylen Brown goes out of the lineup, and all of a sudden they don't allow any points anymore. They're hoping their offense catches up with their defense at this point.
Didn't that come directly after a players-only meeting? They held a players-only emergency players-only meeting, and they came out and they limited somebody like 80 points or something like that.
And it's been good ever since, right? Marcus Smart went out there and called out Brown and Tatum. I mean, I won't say called out because in reading the quotes, you could say that, but it didn't seem like, number one, Marcus Smart's not the type of guy. He's a veteran player to call people out. But Marcus Smart, all the way back to his days at Oklahoma State, is an intense defensive player. And I think he was questioned, challenging guys to play a little bit harder. That's all. And absolutely, Jesse, since that point in time, they've gotten more out of their defense. So we'll see if that can continue. It was kind of tough on a first-year head coach, right? You're 7 games in, and all of a sudden it looks like your players are bickering with one another. But that wasn't the case. The coach actually called Jaylen Brown out right before that and said, I can't understand why this guy's not consistent on offense. And Jaylen Brown had to respond by saying, listen, I had coronavirus and I still feel the effects of it when I'm on the floor at times. But the night after his coach called him out, he went out and scored 34 points. So they miss him offensively. That's probably a reason why they haven't scored much as of late. But the defensive turnaround was crazy. And I'll say this, there's been a huge, I think 2 or 3 games, John. I have a spreadsheet on it. I don't have it in front of me right now. But for about the last 2 or 3 games, much like people were betting Boston under, by the time you see an overnight and wake up the next morning, Boston unders had been hammered. Tonight's not the case. Tonight they played over in that Atlanta-Boston game. But the same is starting to apply to the Indiana Pacers. For whatever reason, I don't know. The only thing I can attribute it to, and I went searching for articles and trying to see if there had been a fundamental change, but Rick Carlisle as the head coach just is not the type of head coach that wants to see these 130 to 125 games. Doesn't want to see it. Rick Carlisle's an old school basketball coach, wants defense, wants, kind of traditional offense. It's why a lot of the Mavericks weren't exactly crying when Rick Carlisle was fired. But perhaps Rick Carlisle had a meeting with his guys. I just can't find anything in print from a beat writer or anything to substantiate it. But all of a sudden, Indiana totals are going under last couple, and the money continues to pour in on Indiana unders. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that as well.
Yeah, the whole under trend is fascinating too, because I've done a lot of research and shows talking about it. You're in November, it's 57.3% blindly betting the under, but in October it was 65%. For the season, you're at 61, just blindly betting the under. Now, if I showed you a chart, it would look like a stock that is, compared to last year, has gone through a correction. So it peaked, basically 212 points per game on average in the NBA. Got as low as 206.9 this year, and now it's starting to grind a little bit higher. And I'm just waiting for that, for the right teams. I don't think you play overs with the top scoring teams like Golden State, for example. It's amazing to me that they have a losing over-under record. Losing meaning they go under more than they go over. And I think I can tell you that here. Yes, I can. For about every single week this season, there's been 5 teams that have a over-under record that has won more overs than unders. So now we finally have 7 teams that are over 500. Toronto is 8-7, San Antonio 7-6, Orlando, Miami, the Lakers, and then Charlotte and the Lakers are both at 9-6 over. The rest of the league is under. And Golden State 4-10 to the under. That's 71%. Milwaukee, Denver, Utah, all 4-10. Pelicans 4-11. Well, I mean they're not a good team. Cleveland 4-11. Oklahoma City 3-10. Brooklyn 5-10. The traditionally strong over teams, the high-powered offenses are not going over. And I don't think it's all entirely because of the new basketball or the new rules. But I guarantee you one thing, that trend's going to reverse. And just like it does in the market with like I gave the example of Apple computer stock, it's going to change and the rubber band's going to snap back. And all of a sudden you're going to hear somebody, on these talking head programs say, oh my God, the over is 15-3 the last 18 games. So I do think, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I do think maybe another 30 days of this grind with unders, and then I think the league will go more over going forward. But I do think you have to pick those teams that, like a Knicks, they're 6-8 to the under guys, and they're 5th in the league in 3-point percentage. They're 5th in the league in 3-pointers made. And I don't think that strategy Thibodeau is going to give up on the offensive side. Like Rob said, the defensive side has got to improve. And there's no better guy than Thibodeau to get that done. But at the same time, I think New York's offense will slowly average more and more points as we get closer to the new year. So I didn't mean to take 20 minutes there and be like Tony Finn and just talk and talk and talk. But
well, ideally, I guess what you want to see if you expect this trend to snap back like a rubber band is you want to see this under trend continue, like you say, for another week or so, and then have the bookmakers pound those totals down. Instead of seeing totals of 220, 215, 217, you want to bring them all the way down to 205, 206, 207. And once you see that correction be made, then you start riding it, right?
Yep, and it's the direct opposite of last year. Last year, if it was 235 and higher, you played the over, right, Rob? If it was 215 and under, you played the under.
I mean, and there's your correction right there,
Yeah.
John. I mean, on any given night like tonight with a 10-game card or whatever it is, we would have seen 3 or 4 games at 227 or better, as high as 240. Yep. I mean, we were talking about 240 last year. Tonight, we're not looking at anything but 1 or 2 games. 220 is 15 points lower than what you would have seen in some of these games last year. So they've made somewhat of a correction. There's been a lot of injuries I mean, you pointed out New Orleans has been dead under, but no Brandon Ingram and no Zion Williamson for about 8 of their games. That's hard for them to score any points in a new system. It's explainable. The Golden State Warriors. Now, I'm a guy who tried to be proactive last night. I played that game over, and you're sitting there with 121 points at halftime in a game that was, I think it was 222. So you got 121 at half, 63-58. You're thinking 101 second half should be doable. But the reason why, and I was on NBA tip-off with Tony, Finn, and Ski yesterday, and we had kind of a battle back and forth. Not everybody agreed, but Golden State's got really good defensive numbers, guys, this year. If you look up Golden State defensive efficiency, they are right up there. But when you go through their list of opponents, my opinion was they're a product of their opposition. They're playing nobody that can score the basketball. And the only 2 times that they did, they gave up 110 and 114. I'm thinking Brooklyn can shoot. This game's going to get over because Golden State's going to play at pace. Golden State's still going to score. The Brooklyn Nets aren't really that good of a defensive team, not as good as their numbers indicate right now. So, there's a lot of reasons for a lot of things here. And we'll see how it goes. Phoenix, talk about, I think in the NBA, and half the reason why I've been lucky enough to have good seasons back-to-back is you got to catch these things in patches. The Phoenix Suns were without DeAndre Ayton for about 4 games. And when DeAndre Ayton's not in the game, their center becomes Frank Kaminsky, and the teams that lined up to play them all were aggressive. Most of them were aggressive point guard teams. And nobody fears attacking the rim if DeAndre Ayton isn't there and Frank Kaminsky is. So they went on a span of about 5 overs in 6 games because Ayton wasn't present. And DeAndre Ayton comes back the other night, and they play Minnesota, and the game goes right back under. It was a horrible shooting game, way uncharacteristic for both teams. But still, little patches during an 82-game NBA season, you got to take advantage of those when you can find them. A good one to point out here that Ski actually gave to me about 4 games into the season. He said, Atlanta on the road, never. Atlanta at home. And if you go to Atlanta's home record, John, again, you got the database in front of you against the spread, and their road record. I mean, if you just woke up every day and played that, Atlanta's on the road, fade. Atlanta's at home, play on. You're rolling in the dough already 11 games into the season. So,
and that's this year or last year and this year combined?
Just this year.
I'm sure he's right. It's fun just to pull it up.
I think they went 0-6 on a recent road trip against the spread and came back home and covered their last 2. And tonight they're laying to Boston. I don't know what their full record is home and away.
We're going to find out right now.
Damian Lillard didn't shoot the ball for 8-9 games. You don't expect Damian Lillard to come out and be lousy. Maybe that was the basketball. Joel Embiid was the first guy to point out the basketball, and then a bunch of guys came in right behind him and piled on. Yeah, the ball.
But meanwhile, Curry's shooting better than ever. Durant's shooting 58%, career high, best field goal percentage. Yeah,
Curry's had some real bad games too, though. I mean, his overalls aren't great. He's had some nights where, like the 50-point night and last night. But somebody was making a case to play the prop Steph Curry under 32.5 points last night, which of course lost. But they're pointing out how many times he hasn't even gotten to 32 this year, and it's a bunch. But these guys are all going to figure it out. I mean, it's not that hard. Denver, John, you pointed them out as an under team. They're a dead under team because they just play at a tortoise pace. They're the slowest team in basketball. Very methodical. Philly, I think you pointed out Philadelphia has shot, or they're 28th in field goal attempts on the season, but that's explainable because everything they shoot goes in. If you look at their true shooting percentage, they're the best in the league right now. So when you're making, 60 62% of everything, 3-pointers, 2-pointers, and free throws. There's not a lot of shots going up when you're making them all.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fact. Jesse, what's on your mind today?
Well, speaking of over-under trends, there's a big over trend so far in the midweek MAC games. And,
didn't mean to steal your thunder there. I knew right when you said it.
Well, thinking along the same lines as you is, when you see a trend where the games continue to go a certain way, whether it be under or over, there's got to be a correction. And I look for the bookmakers to make the adjustments, and then the correction to happen. If the bookmakers aren't making an adjustment, then I don't see any value in me trying to fade the trend. But I did notice last night I did play one of the unders, and it was actually the only game that went over. I had the under, but I had the under for the first half, and that hit, and that was the Toledo Rockets at who were they playing again? Bowling Green.
Ohio U.
Yeah. Were they playing
Ohio U?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I had the first half under there, and the game ended up landing right on 58, which was a push or a loss or win, depending on what line you had. But the other two games, I believe, both went under. And I was going to bring something up that you guys probably aren't aware of. Back in 2015, did you guys know the Detroit Tigers went over the total in 19 straight games?
I did not remember that. I didn't even know it. Nobody ever told me that.
I would have never remembered that until you just said it, Jesse, because being on a daily show all the time, these things get brought up day after day after day, right? And I would have never remembered, though, unless you just said it right then. But I do remember now.
Yeah, I mean, 19 games in a row going over for a baseball team. I'm not sure if it's been done since. I think at the time it was the longest running streak in 20, 30 years. And I had a reporter call me up and say, "We see you've been betting on these overs the whole time. Tell us, how did you know? How did you know to ride this trend?" And I simply said, well, the bookmakers didn't bump up the number. I mean, they went over 19 games in a row. And my strategy was, if it goes over 9, I'm not playing it. If it's 8.5, 9, if it doesn't get up to 10, I'm playing it. And a couple times I missed out because they bumped the number up to 10. But for the majority of those 19 games, it was 8.5, 9, maybe sometimes 9.5. But for the majority of those games, they just left that number right at 8.5 or 9, where it had been the entire time.
Well, I remember the Oakland A's run when they got up to 15 games. I thought I was pretty smart, and I faded them 3 games in a row, and then I stopped. Even though after that, your natural human tendency is to think, well, there's no way in God's green earth they're going to win 19, let alone 20. That is a good movie, by the way, Moneyball.
But what do you guys think of this MAC over trend? You think it's worth continuing to ride those overs, or you think late November, snow, rain, you think those days are gone?
I don't even know if it matters. Like I remember, I've bet one under in the MAC this year, and got killed. And I think it was Kent State, and somebody scored over 100 points, and I was recommending going under at like 68. So it was pretty much the bet was over. Like at halftime, and there was no chance it was going to stay under the 68, and there was no chance I was going to bet in game at 90. And that's where you get yourself in trouble. But after that, I kind of like it was like a slap in the face. Like, okay, stupid head. When your models say bet over, bet over. If they say under, don't listen to them. I don't know any other way to play the MAC.
Well, I mean, just like there's, you see these lines go crazy. In the NBA especially, you watch it every day. An injury is announced, and the line just automatically gets bulldozed, whichever way, the injury favors or doesn't favor. And that's what happened with these MAC totals tonight. I mean, there's going to be rain. in both games actually, but there's going to be there's a way better chance, like 90% shot of rain throughout the second half. Starts at 60%, I think the hourly forecast said, in the Central Michigan game. And that game went from, I don't know, 62 to 56 or 56 and a half based on weather. It's a game where if you sit down and analyze it, there's no way you would ever play under 56 and a half in that game. You would play over. The question becomes, there's no wind really to worry about in that game. The winds are about 12 or 13 miles an hour. But those two teams have veteran quarterbacks, Richardson on one side and on the other. Ball State is the other side of that game. They got arms that can cut through 13-mile-an-hour winds. You worry about it when it gets to like 20 for a college quarterback, 25 to get to a pro quarterback. But yeah, I mean, unless it's a torrential downpour, it's on a field turf surface. At some point, you got to step in and play over in that game. But I'm sitting here waiting because all the money hasn't come yet. Within the next 45 minutes or so, we may see this thing go down even further. And at some point, you just got to step in and play that game over, because if it was grass, on field turf, I always give the advantage to the offense. They know where they're going. The other team doesn't. You don't really lose your footing on field turf if you have the right cleats on. But on grass, offensive receiver makes a cut. The grass goes out from under them. A lot of things can happen that aren't good for the offense. But here, I don't know. I mean, Central Michigan just scores and scores and scores some more. And Ball State, Plitt's been great. I think he's thrown one interception in 5 games. Yeah. And it's the 10th rated pass defense he's going up against inside the conference. So I don't know. Like I say, they both have game breakers. It's not a game you would ever consider play. It's probably why the game started at 62 or 62 and a half, because you would never consider playing it under 56 and a half where it sits now. But guys chase weather. They chase injuries, and sometimes way too far. Taking almost a touchdown off of this game because of some rain. It's not, again, if it's the rain that we saw, I don't know if you guys saw this, but when Miami of Florida played Pittsburgh last Thursday night, Friday night, the game went overtime. And in the overtime, it just opened up and poured. Pittsburgh got their touchdown in just in time, because when Miami took the field, you had no chance. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. The rain was coming down that hard. So if it's that kind of rain, torrential downpour, I'm not playing over. But if it's just steady rain for 3.5 hours, these kids could care less about steady rain. So I don't know. That's just went to.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's a game I may end up taking a chance with personally, because the offenses are that good, the defenses they don't match up. And in that case, with Central Michigan, 2 weeks ago, they beat Western Michigan, but their game breaker guy, Khalil Pimpleton, returns 2 punts for touchdowns. So you have that option on a wet field to take punts back.
Sure do.
And the other side has a kid just as good, Jalen Hall. So, like I say, maybe they'll keep betting it under, John, because of the weather. I just don't know that there's not a point where I can't step in and say, all right, enough's enough. 56. If I get a 30-27 game, I win. Doesn't seem that difficult in the MAC to get to 31-27.
Oh, that's very true. It can happen in a half. Heritage just went to 56 and a half, but South Point's at 57 and a half. Win bet is 57 and a half, and it seems to be kind of all over the place. One quick question for you guys. I'm always intrigued by these MAC games where it opens with the home team favored, and by the time you get to game time, the other team is favored. So we have Ball State opening as a 2-point favorite. Now we have Central Michigan favored by 2.5. Is there any news on that, or is that just it's 71% of the money on Central Michigan? 71% of the tickets and 85% of the money is on Central Michigan. So. Yeah, to me, initially, that's like a flag. Like, that almost makes me want to bet Ball State in the over. But what do you guys think?
It's a game we just did on College Football Daily for WagerTalk. Myself, Ralph, and Drew. And, I mean, between me and Ralph, It's a strong opinion from a group somewhere, because there's no injury situations. Somebody maybe thinks that Central Michigan has an advantage in the rain. I don't know, but it's not because a starting quarterback is hurt and playing hurt. It's not because four linebackers are out for one side. None of those reasons exist in that game. It's just somebody got a strong opinion on Central Michigan. When you sit there and analyze them and break them down the way we just did on that show, there's the difference between these two teams is paper thin. Central Michigan has a revenge angle, but I don't know that it's worth 4.5 points. Central Michigan lost in the MAC championship game last year, playing for the MAC title. Ball State beat them. But the rosters don't indicate that you would move a game 4.5 points, because
maybe a little bit of recency bias. Isn't Ball State coming off a bad loss where they blew a lead?
They're 0-3 against the spread last 3. Central is 3-1 against the spread last 4. It's crazy, too. Central has a chance to still win that division. Ball State is playing to get bowl eligible. They got 5 wins. They need one more to get to a bowl game. So both teams have motivation. Both the team that's winning that division, Northern Illinois, both of these teams lost, including the game Jesse's talking about last week. Both of these teams lost to Northern Illinois by 1 point at the end of the game. Central lost 39-38. The other side lost 30-29 last week on the last play. Otherwise, they would be both would be in contention. Central still is in contention. They need Northern Illinois to lose twice. Last 2 games.
I saw a stat on Northern Illinois that they've won whatever it is, 5 out of their last 6 games or something by an average margin of 2.5 points. Yeah. And this was a write-up designed to get me to want to bet on Northern Illinois. And after reading it, I got to the point where I'm just dying for them to say, so bet against Northern Illinois. And they say, yeah, so we're going to take Northern Illinois. And I scratched my head going, that's not what I saw there.
Yeah, they've been the luckiest team in the MAC this year. I mean, luck has a lot of those teams are so evenly matched. Luck will have a lot to do with it in that conference, but they've been especially lucky. Like I say, these teams are all better than they are. They've beaten Toledo by 2 points. Toledo's better than they are. But they're on the right side.
Toledo looks like they've really flipped a switch somewhere. They've gone from really bad to really good really quick.
It's crazy, right? Remember back in the beginning of the year when they played Notre Dame right to the final gun, Toledo? And, you think at that point, and they had all 22 kids or 21 of 22 starters coming back because of the coronavirus rule. And they were the overwhelming pick to probably win the MAC this year. They come out and they play that game against Notre Dame. And you're thinking, wow, they're really good. And then they come back the next week and they lose at home to Colorado State. And then, like you're saying, Jesse, they go through a bad spell. Last night they looked great. In fact, we could have parlayed with each other last night because you had first half under, which cashes, and I had full game over, which cashed as well. And boy, this is the MAC for you, though. You're sweating that final drive in Ohio. They onside kick, they recover after scoring a touchdown and go down and get another touchdown. They get 2 touchdowns in like the last 3 minutes to send that game over the number.
What line did you have? Because I know that one opened up at like 53.5 and got bet all the way up as high as 59, right?
Yeah, because I used it as $9 Monday, knowing that was going to be played. I got 54.5 for the clients. So you get 54.5, 55, 56, 57. All those guys win. The people who come really super late and buy a single game package, we say it all the time, right? It's tough to do. They get 58, they probably push. But yeah, I got a good number just because I wanted to use it for $9 Monday, and then I used it for myself. But again, that's the MAC for you. You never know with these games. The scoring never seems to be done with, no matter what. It's crazy.
I mean, you mentioned Ralph, and he and I exchange data once in a while. And I know he was playing with teams with wins of 5 on the Bet On It show last week.
Yeah.
And if you're a home dog with 5 wins and 5 losses, you're 63, 52, and 1 for 55%. Not all that bad. But the under, contrary to what we're talking about, is 35 and 22 for 61% winners. So not real big time strong, but if I had my other database where I have opening and closing lines, I would have the opening line in and then I could actually say, okay, well, give me this trend now, with the total moving more than 4 points lower, and I'm sure it wouldn't be 61%. It would favor what you're talking about, betting the over.
Yeah, he mentioned that 55% number on this show today. 5-win teams.
Yeah.
How did they do? I think he did. Did you just break it down to at home? I think he was pointing out home underdogs, which Ball State fits the bill. Home underdogs with 5 wins, and that was the number of covers, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're winning 55% of the time, it's a lot. Just look in your wallet. It's a lot.
Yeah. What's interesting, too, if it's 5 wins, I just had this up. Let me just put it back in. And the opponent has more than 5 wins, and you're a home dog. It goes from that number to, and this is going back to 2006 or 2000. Oh, actually, let's go all the way back to 1980 on my database. So long trend here. Like, how many years is that? 50? No, it's 40. 41.
41 years.
So 5-win teams is a home dog playing against a team with more wins. 173, 214 losses, 6 pushes for 45%. But I bet you, let's do the last 10 years.
So the other side is 55%.
It gets worse. So 5-win teams playing a team with more wins as a home dog since 2012 is 36% winners. So that now is 64% winning, fading teams like Ball State.
Play on Central Michigan. Again, all these things, I don't know that they deserve a 4.5-point move, like we've seen from 2 one way to 2.5 the other way, but there's a strong opinion out there because nobody's taken back against that number. Nobody's come back the other way. It just keeps climbing. So it probably you'll never make 3, but it's been a pretty big swing. I guess you could have taken money line dogs on both sides here and just sat back and watched.
Yeah, it's trading 2.5 now with juice. It's going to go to 3. So something's
if enough people get there, with it, I mean, people looking at that bet $50 think that's the right side. I'm going to go bet it. And, Central Michigan, they're the more explosive team. I mean, they have more ability to get the 60-yard touchdown than the other team does, but the other team can move the football just as well. So it's a hard game. It's hard to find any separators between the two. There's not much there. The quarterback play might be the separator. I mean, we talked about it today. Richardson on one side is maybe a little bit better than Drew Plitt on the other side. But, God, it feels like Plitt's been there for 5 years. Such a veteran. We'll see.
Yep.
A lot of motivation.
Thanks for bringing that up, Jesse. I'm not a MACtion type guy, but I do play it occasionally. But I think you guys know me, I'm more of an in-game bettor on these types of games. So let's say the first 6 minutes is scoreless. I think you'll be able to get it at maybe 51.5, and then I'm going to become quite interested. Even if it's raining, pouring. I agree 100% with what you guys said about the weather, especially in the NFL. And the NFL's gotten away from that, where there's going to be an ice storm or weather. It truly doesn't matter unless it's an absolute blizzard.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I mean, if the first picture I see from this field is showers, there's no way I won't be playing over. I mean, now I don't know how to read it exactly, but it shows the amount of precipitation on those hourly forecasts, and it was like 0.05 rain. I don't know how much that is. I know 1 inch of rain is equal to like 9 inches of snow. I know that much.
Yeah.
But 005, 006, 006. Thinking to myself, it's not torrential. I just don't know. But again, just like an injury, people, rain, got to go bet the under. Rain. I don't know. I'm not so sure that you have to go bet the under in that game. The other game has bad weather too. Buffalo. That game actually, I saw it's a lesser chance of precipitation, but there's a better chance of thunderstorms in Buffalo, New York. But again, with these thunderstorms, guys, they sound bad. But what they do in college football is they send you to the locker room till there's no more thunder and lightning, and you come back out and the conditions are great, and you've just bet under, and now you're playing in great conditions. So many of those games go over because they don't let you play in the bad weather.
I think that's where the in-game could be really intriguing. Like if they do call it because of lightning, the in-game might be all the way down to 53 in that game.
Yeah, and then you come back out and the rain has stopped, nothing's going on, and teams start scoring points. So I don't know. That's another one where they push the total down.
Let's make those show best bets. That if the Buffalo game has a thunderstorm and they go to the locker room and it's not in the third quarter and it's in the first half, then if it drops down to, let's say, below 55, that would be a best bet for me on the show. I actually like the over better in the Buffalo game with that theory because you're right. I mean, it could rain all night in the Central Michigan Ball State game.
Right.
But Buffalo's in the state of New York the last time I checked. And a thunderstorm this time of year is not going to last very long. Yeah, I like that.
Play in it. They just don't have to play in it. I see a little movement now on that game. Pinnacle is pushing the VIG up a little bit on that 60 in the Buffalo Northern Illinois game. Bookmakers going to 60.5. But it opened 65.5.
Yeah. Yep.
And lost a full touchdown off. There's still a lot of 59.5s out there. So I don't know. Neither one of those sides plays any defense whatsoever.
Good stuff.
The Michigan State kid, Lombardi, a quarterback, has been a godsend for Northern Illinois. So I don't know. It's interesting. Mac unders. It's like put the cross up in front of me. No Mac unders. No way.
Yeah, I mean seriously.
I'll take them if they put the number up high enough. I mean, if I start seeing if all these games go over tonight, and then next week we see 68, 66.5, they'll get me eventually if they put it up high enough.
I think. Let me look ahead for you, Jesse, because Kent plays Akron on Saturday, and Kent is always they're never less than 65.
Forget
Poor
about
Akron.
the Kent.
74.5. Some 75s, Kent and Akron. There's your opportunity now.
No thanks.
I'll take Akron. I'll take Akron plus 74.5 if that's what you're talking about.
Akron is getting 13.5 at home.
But
there is a trend too that is just
game, right? That's a weekend MAC game.
That's a Saturday afternoon, noontime. Yep.
Yeah.
Kent can score.
So the last topic in college football is it's a trivia question, and you guys might know, but I love the double-digit dog of 17.5 or more points.
All right.
How many of those this season alone have won the game outright?
17.5 or more?
And won the game this year.
Well, we know one did at like plus 32.
31, yeah. I was thinking of Tony Finn the whole time in the fourth quarter and then overtime. I was going to text him and I decided not to.
I mean, this is just going to be a straight guess. I'll say 8. I was going
to say half a dozen. So
it's 19.
19.
Wow.
It averages into the 20s. 2 years ago it was 24. COVID year it was I think 8 or 9. And it's very common because when my models get a dog like that, the biggest one I had this year was Texas A&M, and of course I don't know when I publish the bet or make the bet that team is going to win, but that's the reason why you sprinkle the money line just in case. And the Kansas one, I also wanted to show you guys this too. So the line is 30 or higher. They were 31.
Yeah, is there even a money line on plus 30?
Probably not. But nowadays, I wouldn't doubt if there was. Some of those sites, they have crazy in-game money line stuff too when a NBA team's up 30 points. You can lay 100,000 to win 1,000 if you want. But line in 30 and win. This goes back to 1980, I believe. 1982. 26 teams of 30 points or more over the last, 39 years. And it's just amazing. I mean, I still can't believe, how did Texas lose to Kansas?
They're asking that same question.
Whoa, I mean, and they really want to come to the SEC? It just seems like a disaster. I mean, that seems like Texas is heading to be, like, with all due respect, the new Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt is a big-time academic school, so I'm not putting that down in any way. But, I mean, how's Texas going to compete against Alabama and Georgia? And anyway.
Well, we'll see. They still recruit. I mean, somehow, some way, but they don't get these recruits to perform. The last 6, 7, 8 years, they've gone through 3, 4 coaches in 8 years, and none of them seem to get these 5 stars to play the way they're supposed to play. Robinson is a great running back, but and beginning of the season, it looked like Texas was going to be improved. But man, oh man, I know Sarkisian, he's got to do something. We'll see what his recruiting classes bring. The same could be said for Oklahoma, the track they're on with all their 5-star recruits. And I mean, I know they only have 1 straight up loss, but certainly they're not exceeding expectations or even close to expectations at this point in time. I mean, they can't bet Iowa State fast enough this week. That line opened 6.5. It's down to 3.5 in some places. Iowa State plus. So
there was one that Jesse Scholl had that you'll like quite a bit, Rob, and I'll try to bring this up here. Database is acting a little funny. It involves the Big Ten, and total is less than 40. Home dog of double digits. If I remember correctly, it's 65%, and then there was a subset that was up around 80%. And Jesse, you can correct me if I'm wrong from the show, but it's on Illinois.
Illinois is on the road, though, I believe, this week. But normally I do have home dogs, but this week I couldn't find one that I liked quite as much as Illinois.
Here, I just pulled it up. Since 2010, a road double-digit dog of 11.5 or more points and a total of less than 40. So it can't be 40. It has to be 39 or less. 39, 17, and 6 for 70%.
The road double-digit dog.
Road dog, I fine-tuned it to 11.5 because that, as we know, 11.5 is a pretty big number. 70% winners, 39-17, and the over is 37-25. And we also know, I had fun playing with this too because of Ralph. Totals in the Big Ten that are 37.5 or lower are 9-1 to the under. So it's kind of like an inflection point. Let me just see what double-digit dogs are before we go to
8 of them are Wisconsin, probably.
Yeah, it was. It was Wisconsin and Iowa. I think I actually played under in that game. And it got to 34. It was I don't think they scored in the fourth quarter. I thought I was going to lose it, but they didn't score in the fourth quarter, and it ended the way the third quarter ended. Double-digit dogs, road double-digit dogs, total under 40. We have 45, 25, and 7 pushes for 64%, 47 and 30 to the over for 61%.
And how many years is that?
It goes back to 2010.
So that's 67 games in 11 years. So it happens almost 6.5 times a year. That's quite a few.
2006.
So 67 times in 15 years is about a little over 4.5. That seems more reasonable. 4 times it has, because that's a hard combination to come up with. Under 40 for a total and a double-digit point spread. That's not easy to find.
Well, mathematically speaking, I actually did an analysis on this. When a line is moving, like say from 45 to 42, and it is a double-digit dog, it's easier for the dog to cover. And I think this reflects that because of the 64% success rate. The dog doesn't have to do too much to get the ATS win, as opposed to when the total is 75. And I don't think we'd see any MAC games that would qualify under this scenario.
No, God. No.
Total less than 40. I wonder what the total is.
Team total less than 40.
Yeah. Or Ole Miss when they play. They had a first half total that was, 42.5 to one game?
Man, They made me pull my hair out Saturday. That team had 408 yards in the first half last week against Texas A&M. 408 in the first half and only had 15 points. I'm like, what the hell are you doing with these 408 yards? It's almost impossible.
You must have been really pulling your hair out in the third quarter when the comeback was on.
It was just, oh man, what are you doing? Score some points.
There's one team this year that has outstatted their opponents in every single game. Any guesses on that one?
One team only?
Yeah. According to my database, I if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Wow. Well, I mean, could Georgia have been outstatted in any game? Maybe.
It's not. Georgia was. And I think it was the Florida game. No, they killed them. It was early on. But the answer is Ohio State. And they look pretty good against... I mean, how does that Michigan State secondary hold up against that onslaught? I mean, it doesn't matter that Ohio State's questionable in their secondary. And the line tells you that. I mean, they're favored by 19.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I don't know if I'm going to go to the window with it. But if you told me right now I had to bet it, I would say Ohio State and possibly by as many as 30. I don't see it being close at all.
Did it open at 19 or did it open at 20?
I can tell you here in 1 second. That's a noon game too, isn't it?
Yeah.
It opened at 19.5.
So I thought I saw a statistic that 69% of the public is on Michigan State plus the points, yet the number's been bet down with the money coming in on Ohio State.
Well, I'm showing Michigan State, like you said, is 64% of the tickets, 67% of the money. So the public is on Michigan State. Mm-hmm. And that is forcing the line to go from 19.5 down to Caesars has 18.5 right now, but everybody else is square at 19. And I don't know about you guys, but my research says when the public is on a dog, especially a double-digit dog, it's rare. And when it happens, you want to be on the favorite.
I hate Ohio State, but I can't be backing Michigan State this week, I don't think.
It might be a game I just watched, but another one that is really kind of interesting is Michigan playing at Maryland. That opened at 15, mostly. Well, it's anywhere from 14.5 at WinBet, 15s at Penny and Heritage, 15.5 at Westgate. But that's kind of like that Penn State-Ohio State game Nebraska-Ohio State. After Ohio State beat Penn State, they were going to Nebraska, and Nebraska was only a 15-point or 14.5-point dog. Because of that, I took Nebraska because I thought the line should be like 20 or 21. And it's contrarian. And this one's kind of weird, too. And 68% of the tickets are on Michigan. 90% of the money is on Michigan. But the line's only gone a point at most, half a point at other places.
I wouldn't feel too comfortable with Maryland the way they can turn the ball over with that quarterback against that Michigan team. I
they're dysfunctional. I think they have to change their helmets, and the helmets they don't look right. It looks like they should be jousting or something. And I probably just insulted half the fans of Maryland now. What does Tony Finn call that? The drive-by?
Yeah,
But
well,
they've had a rough season. Maryland has, turnovers, mistakes. So they had, if they don't make the mistakes, they could have a much, much better record.
it's just not that good. It's
No.
not that good. I mean, heading into that Iowa game that was on a Friday night about 7 weeks ago, the whole world was backing Maryland. Maryland. Oh, Iowa can only win if they get turnovers. That's the only way they can win. What they do, they intercepted that kid 6 times that night. They scored over 50 points in that.
That's crazy.
Because Maryland's just no good. And he's recruited really, really well. Mike Loxley can recruit. But they don't know how to win that team. They got no clue what they're doing. That quarterback, to his little brother, he's not that good. His first receiver is not open and he doesn't know what to do anymore. Oh, my God, he's not open. What do? I'll throw an interception. That'll solve it.
He does lock in.
It feels like that could happen. It could be deja vu all over again against Michigan, couldn't it?
It should be, to tell you the truth, Jesse. It should be. That game should be, Maryland has no wide receivers left. They lost their third wide receiver this week. So now both starters and their third guy all out. They got no way to move the football against that team, period. End of story. That game should be, if Harbaugh doesn't run it up, it's a 38-7 game. It should be a cakewalk. They're not even better than Rutgers.
Michigan's in. Is there any reason why Harbaugh wouldn't run it up?
Tiebreakers.
Does he have Ohio State next week?
Yep.
I'm not sure.
And the tiebreaker's way down the list, but as we saw in that one game, was the upset of Oklahoma. The fans stormed the field at Baylor. They cleared the field for a field goal because the Baylor coach knows the rules and that they kicked it, not to rub it in their faces, but to get that tiebreaker.
Yeah, the only difference for Harbaugh is he won't need the tiebreaker. If he beats Ohio State, he wins. He'll win the division because he's got the tiebreaker. He beat the team that he's tied with, so it won't matter. But I think if they get up, Jesse, late, you're more worried about health than you are running it up at that point because you have Ohio State for the division title on deck. But still, 15.5 is an easy number.
Yeah.
15.5 is not a big number. He's not going to ease up at 21-7. They might ease up at 38-7. Okay, let's call it a day.
The scenario, you painted it out good, Rob. Like, the Michigan players actually might be thinking, this game doesn't matter. Not that they're thinking, well, if we lose it, it doesn't matter. But actually, it does not matter if they lose this game because if they beat Ohio State, they have the tiebreaker.
Well, if they lose this game, they won't have the tiebreaker anymore because they'll have 2 losses. And then they can't tie Ohio State.
Oh, that's right. It's conference.
Maryland's a division opponent.
Ohio State lost to Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon doesn't matter in that, right? So, that's probably the way they'll want to come out and, this is just us analyzing it. You would want to, in a perfect world, you want to come out, you want to get it over with, done with, and get your starters the hell out of there. That's what you want.
Yep.
2.5 quarters, 3 quarters. Let's move on. This game's in the bag. And the way they match up, it's very possible. Those kids that come off the end, that Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, the pass rush that they bring against this kid, it's like, what is this Adrian Martinez going to do, quarterback in Nebraska? Oh, my God, that guy, talk about ripping the hair out of your head. He just can't bet Nebraska anymore. But what's he going to do against Wisconsin's defense this week? Jesus.
That's another game
that kid's a mess. That kid is a hot mess, and he's talking about coming back next year because somehow these coronavirus rules will will allow him to come back and be the starter for like a 60 year. It's crazy. I would want him the hell out of my program. Scott Frost's going to get fired because of that kid. They gave him an extra year extension, 2022. They just gave him, right? So he's okay. But this quarterback, get this guy fired. He's a hot mess at quarterback, Adrian Martinez. For every one good thing he does 3 bad. And when you bet Nebraska and you're watching it, when you have that side, it's magnified by 10,000. You're like, Jesus Christ, Martin. How many times that comes out of my mouth watching that kid play? It's unbelievable.
It looks like money is coming in on Nebraska this week, too.
It did. It went from like 11 to 9.5. And Nebraska's bet, boy, they look great statistically. They look great. They've got all the numbers. And they've covered. They played some good teams tough, right? They played Michigan State tough to the end. They covered against Ohio State. But you can't have this kid. Then they do stupid stuff like home favorite against Purdue and have a lead into the third quarter, and this kid proceeds to turn the ball over 3 straight series and lose the game going away. So, I mean, they're tough.
Pinnacle's got it at 8 right now. Should I jump in?
That's not, and I don't know. Again, I don't follow those numbers that you were talking about before, John, like public and tickets and this stuff, because I don't know how that computer's identifying what's a public bet and what's a sharp bet. Like that computer's not reading the actual bettor.
Right.
Oh, this guy's a sharp. Okay, put that in the sharp column. He's public. Put it in public. I don't know how they're defining that. But I could say this: that move on Nebraska, that's not a public move. That's money making that move.
I don't know what season it happened, but when I was on Wall Street, you have pros and Joes there too. Mm-hmm. And obviously the pros are much bigger institutional accounts than an individual, but I lumped them all together because I couldn't get any real intelligence out of splitting them apart. And I think the same thing applies here. I mean, you can have the Joes and the pros on the same side, and they sometimes win. But when number of tickets, and it's not necessarily the money, number of tickets gets in excess of 77% and starts challenging 80%, and it's a game that has upwards of 3,000 bets made on a Friday night or a Saturday morning ahead of the game. That's the red flag, I think, that gets my attention. And then it's just one thing of about 100 other things that we all look at. But that, to me, seems to be the red flag. And it applies to the market, too. Steve Merrill and I talk about it. And, everybody wondered why Bitcoin crashed. And that's because the sentiment reading was 85%. And that meant that 85% of the positions were long, bullish, that it was going to the moon. And that's how tops are made. And the same thing applies to sports betting. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, I feel like it used to be so much easier for these sports books to identify where the sharp money was coming from, because at that time, everybody bet in casinos. I mean, these guys had runners, and then the tellers at the window see these runners, and they know who that money's coming from. But nowadays, when you bet online, and you don't even show up at the casino, you don't even show your face, you're just betting online, and you're hiding. I mean, Billy Walters doesn't sign into an account that says Billy Walters is making this bet. They're probably using different names every single week to try and throw people off. The size of the bet, I guess, is the only way. But then is Mattress Mac a sharp guy with his $200,000 bets on stuff? He's okay. I'm not going to say that, but he's not a respected bettor.
No,
but he has a lot of money. So I don't know how you identify bets through money either, but it used to be so much easier when you could see faces, beepers, pagers. Oh my God, here comes the onslaught of this syndicate or that syndicate. You don't see that anymore because people bet through and there's a zillion ways to hide behind the computer screen of who's making the bets. So, and when it's hit universally, when you see your computer screen just make a move all the way across the board, that's a syndicate bet. That's about the only way I can tell anymore.
It's the speed of the movement. Like the book, you see the books adjust right away. I think you're absolutely right.
It's why most people pay more attention to Pinnacle than anything else, because more money runs through Pinnacle than any other place. And those other books they see what's going on in the high-end shops, the respected shops, and they just adjust accordingly. They don't care. If they're getting the money or not, they're going to move. Oh, my God, Pinnacle just went to 10. We got to go to 10, too. But we haven't taken any money on that side. Who cares? Go to 10. That's the way it's run nowadays.
Right. I agree.
That's the way it's run. So, but Nebraska, back to Jesse's original point, it's a pretty strong opinion on Nebraska this week. And I think because they've shown really good point spread wise against good opponents. They don't ever get it done.
But they hang in there.
But they hang in there somehow, somewhere. They got Ohio State to kick field goals.
Yep.
Which Penn State did too. Penn State got Ohio State to kick field goals. I don't know. I'm not betting that quarterback though. No way in hell am I betting that quarterback.
I did it once, and it was against Ohio State, and I said thank you.
You didn't say thank you to him because he didn't do anything to help you. But it's hard. He's a talented kid, but he's got nothing between his ears. Just nothing between his ears. And I don't know how that poor coach doesn't rip all the hair out of his head watching him play. You can see him when he comes to the sideline in that Purdue game. He's like, what are you thinking out there? What are you thinking? Honest to God. You've been in the program 5 years, and you're doing this.
Yep. Well, I think I'm going to go have a nice steak.
There you go. With a Mac over.
Yeah, with a Mac
over. Gym myself.
Oh yeah. Okay, make it look like I'm not fit because I'm going to eat red meat. You know what?
Nothing wrong with red meat.
Do you guys ever eat acai?
The beer?
No, it's a fruit, and it's
ACAI.
Yeah.
Not aware.
They make acai bowls, at least all over here in the East where we're healthy. I don't know what they do in British Columbia out there.
Sushi
and yoga, I guess, huh?
Sushi and yoga, yeah.
I don't know. Where U.S. is concerned, I've lived in both geographically. West, Las Vegas, east as far as Connecticut, now Pennsylvania. And to me, the health craze is out west. It's not in the east. It's out west. Those people are just... But they got the weather to do it, too. When you're talking about outdoors, when I lived in Las Vegas, we never worried about weather ruining your day outside. Here, you got to ask the weatherman first. Can we go outside today? Is it okay? Sometimes the answer is no.
It's true.
Oh, see? Lenny balls.
Yep. We think the over, Lenny, that you use the in-game or... some of these lines have dropped so much now that if you look at the weather, you can see on radar. If it's light green, like your color on the background of Lenny Balls, it probably. I mean, there's not much analytical handicapping here on this, but the price is cheap to bet the over. And in MACtion, I think I'd rather be found wrong betting the over. I'd be less embarrassed with that than if I did what I did with that Kent State game and bet under 68 thinking I was smart and getting value and they score over 100 points. That's embarrassing. So I think we're over men. And I haven't seen Sumner in a while, but we haven't had the show in a while. But Buffalo starting quarterback not playing. So I guess that helps the total go down lower with the weather too. But I like that in summer. I like that outline you did, Rob, with the thunderstorm. That if it hits and it actually makes the game stop, then that I'm going to be. If I bet the over, I'll tweet it. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between the two games. The other one may have steady rain. It's not going to stop. I mean, they're not going to stop play in the Central Michigan Ball State game. There's no lightning in the area. But that Buffalo game has an opportunity. If they see a flash, what is it, within 8 miles or something, I think it is. If they see that show up on the radar, boom, to the locker room. Come out when the field's playable again. And you really don't suffer anything on an over bet in that kind of weather because you're protected from it. They just send everybody into the locker room and you don't play. So we'll see if it gets that bad.
And lastly, we won't do final round of best bets today. We gave out a lot of great ideas that can be best bets. And everybody knows we're thinking over the MACtion. But for Max on record, here's your golf. Sorry, Jesse. I didn't mean to, eliminate you from the show. Nothing personal. But again, for those that are looking at this for the first time, you take this 20-player pool for the RMS tomorrow. It starts, I forget what time it starts, but it doesn't matter. You can look that up yourself. But if you take your 6 players from this pool, a lot of people who watch this show have told me they've done well. And I must admit, Max said he did real well with my player pool last week. Well, I must have picked the 6 worst because I think I had one of the lowest scoring weekends in PGA golf I can ever remember. I mean, I wasn't even close. I think I had one lineup where 4 guys didn't even make the cut.
Ooh.
Oh, it's brutal. Brutal. But I think we've had that up there long enough now so that if people see it, they can write them down or take a screenshot of it, and then you have them. But the top guy this week is Oosthuizen. And I do like the names at the top. Seamus Power, too. Charles Howe the third is pretty reliable to make the cut, and that's what you want. And he's going to be pretty cheap. Tyler Duncan is the last guy down there. That's a risk, but if he makes the cut, the guy can play very, very hot. And Chad Ramey, the same thing. So that's my 2 cents worth for the tournament tomorrow.
For the tournament tomorrow.
Yeah, so maybe we'll get Finn on here sometime this week. If I guess he has writer's cramp from what he said, in addition to all this other stuff going on. I mean, that's horrifying to lose a pet like that. I mean, it just is.
Yeah, he's got a 4-year-old, and this the conversation started with last Tuesday. I had 2 separate assignments for WagerTalk videos where me and Tony Finn were partnered, and he didn't show up. Actually, one was NBA tip-off. He didn't show up for NBA tip-off. Then we had college football panel videos together. He didn't show up for those. So I saw him yesterday on NBA tip-off. I said, yeah, where were you last Tuesday? You left me hanging. And he's like, he starts thinking about it, and he's like, oh, that was the day we brought our dog in, 4 years old, to find out it has lymphoma.
Ugh.
So he was, and I'm with him on that wavelength because he was talking about how he just does not do well with that stuff. And I tell you, we had
I don't either.
Black Lab, 16 years. He died a couple of years ago. And I mean, I was a mess because what happens is, that dog, you have him for 16 years, and that dog is in this home office with me every day, every minute of every day. Then they go. So then I'm totally against getting another dog because I don't want the end result. I mean, once you get them, you love them, but it's the end that is just brutal.
Yeah, it is.
But during coronavirus, of course, everybody in this house pushing dog, and they keep sending me pictures of puppies until finally, okay, now we have a 1.5-year-old yellow lab who's mostly white. But Tony, he got that news about his dog, and then he said later that night he took his littler dog. He's got 2 dogs, took it out for a walk, and this hawk, I don't know how they have hawks in Las Vegas, but he said that thing came down and tried to eat his dog. So then he had to go back and get his gun and chase the hawk down.
Like a turkey vulture. Don't they have vultures out there?
They might. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. Let me say this real quick. For the guy who pointed out that Buffalo's starting quarterback is not going tonight, Kyle Van Treese, been a starter there for a couple of years. But their backup, Matt Myers, has been a starter before and has played a lot this year. He's a junior in the program. So, and it's a run-oriented team anyway, so I don't know how much difference Van Treese would make, except he's got a little more experience and he is the starter. But Myers, it's not like you're bringing a true freshman off the bench to go out there and, go give it the old college try, kid.
Good point.
I was just going to say the same thing. He was 7 of 11 for a touchdown last game he appeared in. It looks like as far as winning the game, maybe not as good as Van Treese, but as far as pushing the point total over, it shouldn't really affect that.
Right. Absolutely. And like I said, they're a run-oriented team anyway. So, handing off isn't really a problem for a kid that's been in a program. So we'll see. Yeah. We will see.
Yeah, good stuff. And I guess that'll be it for this edition of the Manny's Irish Pub. We're back to those 90-minute great shows of just talking, and it does feel like we're hanging out at a bar. Otherwise I probably would be hanging out at one. And I certainly wouldn't be talking to just the intelligence of you two guys, that's for sure. It's the one thing about going to a bar. You get that one character that's had too many already, and he knows everything about everything.
Oh boy.
Oh my God. I'm smart enough now. I just leave. Especially
hard
when I'm wearing my
sometimes.
Tom Brady jersey. No, I don't wear a Tom Brady jersey. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't be alive now, I don't think. But anyway, thanks for your time, guys. And tell Tony Finn I said hi.
Will do. Hopefully I see him. I think we're on NBA tip-off together tomorrow, so hopefully I see him. But, yeah, Jesse, good to see you again.
I guess we'll see you next Wednesday, Rob.
Yeah, these schedules, they change. I haven't been on any college basketball yet. I don't feel prepared enough. I don't know about you guys if you've done any college basketball, but
I had the over in the Oregon game last night, and they shot 12% from the field in the first 15 minutes.
I was watching that, Jesse, honestly, and I think when I turned it on, it might have been like 50-28 BYU, and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? BYU must be pretty good this year, but Oregon was ranked like 12th.
Yeah, they're 12th. I hate to say it, I was actually on BYU, but I didn't think that was going to happen. Because I didn't watch the game. I saw the score when I woke up, and I was like, what the hell is that? They won by what, like 30?
So if you get a chance real quick, go and find it's on YouTube, the video. Just type in Mick Cronin, UCLA. Mick Cronin gave one of the best post-game press conferences yesterday, where he just absolutely shredded his basketball team. I mean, shredded them for their unwillingness to play defense. And so, of course, it was pointed out to me. I went and watched it and, tailed and got on under tonight in the UCLA game, figuring Mick Cronin sending a message. We'll see, but it's one of the best. He doesn't raise his voice, but he tells the reporter. Normally, coaches are not that honest. They're not that honest. To call kids out by name. He named by name his backup five, the second team, and said, you know what?
I love it.
If the first team doesn't want to play, they'll play. I'll sit them. And he said, I got three options. He said, I could either coach and teach. If that doesn't work, I can scream and yell. And if that doesn't work, I can run them in practice, or if they don't run, I'll sit them in the game. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if coaching and teaching ain't working. His point was UCLA, Johnny Juzang and all these guys that went to the NCAA finals last year, Final Four, right? That they're so full of themselves offensively that they figure they could just outscore anybody and they don't have to play defense. They tune the coach out. And Mick Cronin, from his days in Cincinnati, is a defensive guy. So he's going to put an end to that. But I'm thinking, if one doesn't work teaching, coaching, screaming and yelling usually doesn't work modern day. It used to work in the Bobby Knight era. And then three doesn't work because if they don't run in practice and you sit them, the first thing they do is go to the transfer portal and you lose your starting five in one night. So I think they'll probably respond, but that's just real quick for those still watching. Maybe UCLA under tonight. We'll see if Mick Cronin's words are listened to by his team. But it's a great thing to go watch because I've never seen a coach call players out by name. Just very methodically. Pretty good watch.
Yeah. Good stuff, Rob.
Look it up right now.
Thanks, Jesse. I'll probably we don't have any more shows the rest of the week, you and I, but next week we will. We've done pretty well with the college football show with Dr. Chuck, Jesse, and myself. That's gaining popularity. We almost hit 5,000 views the one 2 weeks ago. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
That's Rob Vino territory, isn't it, Rob?
You know what? I'm not sure. They don't let me in on those things. Johnny Detroit knows those analytics. I don't know those analytics. John, I guess there's a certain way to find them, but Johnny will always let us know if we're living up to expectations. So I haven't heard otherwise yet, so hopefully we are.
Yeah, as long as when he sends them, it's on the good side, then, it's all good.
Actually, now that you say that, I think on the YouTube videos, you can see how many views there were of videos. But
it's harder when you're doing Twitter and this simultaneously, or if I was doing, like I'm apparently doing Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So it kind of skews it. But, my goal for our show is to get it out in front of as many eyes as possible. It's not anything more or less.
Right. Well,
yeah.
We're out there tonight. We gave him what we know. Everybody stop by Jesse's gym and say hi. Go have a steak with John Ryan.
Yeah. Go work out for 15 minutes and then join me.
I'll have to.
I'm in pretty good shape.
Here.
I don't want people to think I'm not like I'm, the cardiologist dream waiting to happen.
Well,
I take pretty good care of myself. But the acai bowls, I want you guys to look it up and I want you to try one. And they're freaking delicious, and it's the number one antioxidant in the world. So it allows you to eat a 28-ounce porterhouse steak without fear.
That's...
If you listen to Joe Rogan, and he's a pretty healthy guy, he says that's the secret. You go to the gym and then eat steak.
Well, always remember what Tony Finn says. Everything in moderation, excessively.
Words to live by. Words to live by.
So if you can get a 36-ounce porterhouse, get the biggest one you can.
So if he can shoot one hawk tonight, he ought to go out and shoot 6, according to him.
Shoot the whole flock. Shoot the whole flock.
Just kill everything in the neighborhood. He's too funny for words.
Oh, he is. So I'll let you guys go. Have a good night. Best of luck to you guys.
Good luck tonight.
As always, may all the wins be yours.
There you go.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it, man.
Thanks.
Care. You got it. Bye.